Okay, so for most of the do not know, I recently went to my very first Comic-Con, and I kind of did a little mini vlog of this whole experience, checking out the Comic-Con in Cape Town, which, by the way, first Comic-Con, amazing, because we got to actually see Emperor Palpatine in person. I'm not going to say his second name, but, Ian, okay, I might not really try to say the second name, because it's hard for me to really say. But this is my experience of Comic-Con, and you'll see why I'm doing it in this format, because, honestly, very crowded there. How do we say that? But otherwise, let's get straight to the experience I had at Comic-Con Cape Town. Okay, so first, getting to Comic-Con was actually pretty straightforward. Wasn't as busy as we thought it was going to be because, honestly, when it came to arriving to Comic-Con, they opened the doors at around about 10 a.m., which they do. But you can still get into the main hall, which honestly, the main hall looked pretty good. They had the Last of Us booth, which I don't think I really got footage of. But they get some B-roll shots off, obviously, the main hall. Then obviously there was a Toyota Prado, I think that's what it is, that was on display with a Black Ops 6 wrap, which honestly looks pretty good with that wrap. But going into the ground floor or main level, it was a lot. Now the main area was basically just obviously your collectibles, your arts, so your artists, your Toys R Us, which yes, in South Africa we do still have Toys R Us. I know Americans don't really have them much anymore. But honestly, there was a lot of stuff there. Even a Hulk figurine, which I did take a photo of. It was honestly very interesting to say. Hopefully, just seeing everything there. And then obviously in the middle is the main stage where they actually had, I believe, a lot of the guests there. They actually did have two YouTubers that they did have out there before obviously the main big guest, which I will actually get to later in this video. But yeah, while we were waiting for the main guest to obviously arrive, because it was a bit later, we went upstairs to the gaming section. And my word, it was amazing. So they actually were holding two different esports events basically up in the gaming section. And basically one was sponsored by Red Bull and one was basically sponsored by Samsung. So sick, cool. They actually also did have a competition with the one internet provider here in South Africa, OpenServe, which honestly was actually really good. They actually did have a racing rig that I actually am going to be doing a video on very soon, which will be on the main channel, so that'll be coming out tomorrow, hopefully. And it was actually really nice. First time ever doing a proper force feedback rig, and I enjoyed it. They actually did it on Kailami, and they had it where if you had the best fastest lap, you could win 10,000 Rand, which I think is roughly just about $500 or so. Still pretty good. I mean, why not? And yeah, I do say I did spin out. Well, not spin out, but I did brake too late in the first corner. But I mean, first time trying out the sim rig, so what can I say? But eventually I got used to it. And then we went walking around. There was a Squid Game booth, which that was a big experience, but the line was extremely long, and they still said wait time is roughly 15 minutes. Basically, if you are closer to the door, it's basically like 15 minutes. I think the experience was around about 15 minutes long. All I know is you could hear once in a while just Squid Game sounds like all of a sudden, but that was actually kind of cool. Then straight after that, we went straight downstairs for the main event, which had Emperor Palpatine, or the actor of Emperor Palpatine, as the main guest. And I'm actually just going to play the raw footage, just so you guys can get an experience of the atmosphere that was there, because it was so many people watching that whole main stage experience. But here's the little clip.
Alright, one more time, who's ready for a show today? Then please put your hands together, welcome to the stage, the Emperor of the Universe. Give it up for Ian Mcdiarmid! Thank you. We'll see you later. Bye. Let's get out of here. Good morning. Hi. Hello.
And then after that, there was obviously some interviews, and it was honestly pretty insane. And I still got some B-roll shots of just showing how many people were actually there to see, him actually doing the whole panel. And it was insane. It was actually really interesting. And honestly, this was on May 4th, so perfect time for our Comic Con as well in Cape Town, which I enjoyed. Very fun, very entertaining. And they actually did have a section where they did knight some Star Wars fans, which was kind of cool. Also, I'm not going to show some of them because they were obviously more younger, and you know, YouTube has a policy of that, so I'm not going to show that, but I'm going to show obviously the one employee that obviously they just did a test on to, you know, show how the knighting's going to happen. But the voice that he did after he did the knight was just sick, and here's a little snippet of it.
That way, if you burn an ear off or something, he works for the convention, so you know, he's expendable. There you go.
And you know what I'm going to say, which is
And I'll definitely say, when he does the voice, it's just so interesting, especially if you are someone that's a Star Wars fan, because obviously you grew up watching, you know, these movies with Star Wars, and just hearing the voice in person is just such another level of experience. But then after that, we walked around a bit more. We obviously visited the Hulk again, where I actually took the photos of Hulk. And I mean, that is a 1-to-1 scale of the Hulk, which, by the way, that is a massive thing. And they also did have a figurine of Thor, which not much people actually took photos by. Most people actually went to the Hulk statue to take photos, which was very funny in a way. But then we went back upstairs and we also went to the gaming experience. And then we actually went to a booth, which was the Checkers 6060 booth, where not only did they have more racing rigs, obviously fastest lap would also get reward, but they were also doing from a certain point where they would basically be spinning a wheel for someone to win a prize. And I think they were actually giving away like keyboards and all that. And I think eventually it was a PS5 at the very end at some point. But they also had one big reward, which was basically, well, you could basically win signed gloves, boxing gloves, from Dricus Duplessis, which obviously is the, I think, middleweight championship, or UFC champion. I'm not really clued into obviously the UFC side because I'm not really someone that really watches UFC, but yeah, you could win his gloves with a lucky draw. I find if there was obviously a little wheel that you had to spin, obviously you have to get a ticket to actually experience the other sim rig there, and obviously more of the console side there. And funny enough for me, my spins kept on landing on spin again until I actually got a free Nox, which was pretty nice that we got a free Nox. But yeah, we tried out the other sim rig. It was more of an advanced Moser racing rig, and that was way difficult. And they actually didn't bother the vehicles to be the Checker 6060 hypercars, which is pretty funny. But that was actually pretty fun. And then after that, we just walked around a bit and checked everything out, and we did actually basically in total spend 4 hours at Comic-Con, which, I mean, wasn't bad. I mean, we obviously didn't cosplay, we didn't go to where they had the signings at, and I believe they also had a Rebel car there, but we obviously didn't go there. But it was a fun experience. And then, yeah, I'll just say it was a long-ish day for us, but it was a fun experience. And again, I would just like to say, Comic-Con Cape Town, amazing job. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And I'll definitely want to go next year. Hopefully I'll have more money for that, because sheesh, a lot of last things there. It's very expensive there with a lot of stuff. I believe there was like these little Rebel cans you could get, but they were like 50 rand each, which I'll put the exchange rate sum up in the corner. Whereas the Nox was actually a lot cheaper, and they were on special as well, so we should have actually just gone for the Nox instead. But it was fun, and yeah, unfortunately I missed some content creators I actually do know, because they mostly went to, I believe, Friday and Saturday events, which sucks, but I mean, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was a fun experience, and yeah, I can't wait for next year, and hopefully next year will be fun. But otherwise, that is my experience at Comic-Con. Amazing experience. I enjoyed it, and yeah, hopefully I can go to more of these type of events, because obviously I'm someone that doesn't really go too much of these events. But yeah, this actually definitely was a fun experience, and hopefully next year I can have a better chance of experiencing more. But otherwise, let me know in the comments below if you want to see more of these type of videos on the channel, where it's like these type of style of vlogs. But yeah, I would love to do more talking at the event actually, but it was just so crowded. But I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next one. Be safe as always, and have a great day. Bye.